In our country spotlight today, we're moving on to Ethiopia, a country where I'm sure we've all realized use cases, inclusive use cases, are being built and rolled out in parallel with enrollment. And what that means is really encouragement to the citizens to come forward and use their digital ID. Because like we always keep saying, good innovation is only meaningful with good adoption. So to give us more insights, we have Yodahe Zemichael from NIDP to take us through what it's like in Ethiopia.
Hi, morning everyone. I'll have to keep my presentation very brief. So I represent Ethiopia. We're in East Africa. We have a lot of good coffee and you're welcome to come and visit. So the Digital ID program, we have a longer story compared to Uganda, and it's not a brownfield, it's a greenfield. Back in 2021, when we launched our first laboratory-based pilot, MOSIP was only available ID management system, a platform available to deploy. And we really did not find out a lot about it, its background, about triple IT, we did not know, as mentioned, but we just looked at the code on GitHub, tried playing around with it, and then started work. And the relationship eventually developed, and we now have had weekly meetings with MOSIP more times than we can count for the past 4 or 5 years. So this is our logo, and this is some of our important KPIs. This is Fayda in numbers. Fayda is the Ethiopian Foundational Digital ID, and we have about 34 million people in our database. Every week we're adding around 1 million, so every month this time we're adding around 4 million people to our database. So the country is still at the climax phase of the registration. It's a nationwide, very massive campaign. We have about 100 agencies integrated. So we're not just collecting data, but we're also authenticating people and use cases, segments of customers of different providers, as I'll mention later. The third KPI is authentication. How many people are using Fayda for eKYCs every day? So we've reached about 1 million a day now. These are considerable numbers. The fourth one is the number of printed credentials, officially printed credentials. That stands at around 10 million. And the last one is the number of biometric registration kits that we have. So that represents accessibility, how close by that people can access registration. So these are some of our important numbers. For the registration ecosystem, we have, as Fayda, we focus mostly on the platform level, so on MOSIP. So we consider ourselves a sort of a system integrator, much like some of the players here. So we deal with our ABIS provider, which is Take5. We deal with our biometric kit providers, which are Money. We have multiple biometric kit providers. We deal, of course, day to day with team, with MOSIP. So most of our focus is on the digital space. So the registration, the operational aspect, we work with partners. So we have the likes of telcos and banks and post offices that do the registration. So our numbers are aggressive. The political leadership has given us very aggressive numbers. By the end of the current fiscal year, we're supposed to reach 90 million. So we're at 34 million today, so number of registration is ramping up. The entire nation is registering north to south, west to east. And after registration, people can hold their credentials in multiple formats. We do not mandate everyone to have the same type of card. If they don't like the card, they can keep the paper. If they don't like the paper, they can just use the number. Because as digital ID, we're not pushing a physical credential. We're pushing the uniqueness and the eKYC aspect of it. So eKYC happens online and offline. The online modality is through what we call Verified 2, because we used to have something called Verified 1, which was an API, and it was not really meeting expectations, scalability, privacy, etc. So what we call Verified 2 is essentially eSignet that was presented earlier by Ramesh. So we use eSignet to allow most of our relying parties, such as the banks and telcos, to have access to single sign-on capabilities. So they can offer their customers ability to sign on, to onboard themselves very smoothly and easily. And then eSignet, as you probably quite know, it has multiple modalities of authentication depending on the level of assurance required. So possible to do OTP, possible to do face, possible to do fingerprint authentication. And then the offline or the decentralized modality. Offline, we used to have a QR code, a digitally signed QR code based authentication. But now we're focusing more and more on something we call Fayda Pass, which is our digital wallet that we're rolling out. We're partnering with Take5 on this particular wallet. And this wallet will hold verifiable credentials, and that's what we're working on. So how do we employ eSignet to harmonize? So harmonize is another term for harmonization is seeding. So banks have millions, tens of millions of customers. Telcos have tens of millions of customers. The revenues authorities have millions of customers. We make registration easy. The entry is easy. We don't have a lot of barriers to entry. To access digital ID is easy. So we do post-facto verification of credentials. So if you give certain type of credential to the tax authorities, or if you give a different type of credential to the bank while opening a bank account, then that creates a problem for you. So we do post-facto verification. We triangulate data through using the eSignet authentication mechanism. So the telcos are now harmonizing, the banks are harmonizing. So yesterday I was showing to some people, we have 33 banks in Ethiopia. All 33 of them have linked their banking systems, their customer CRM systems with Fayda's Fayda, or as we know it's eSignet. So this harmonization creates a single source of truth. I cannot have a different age at one bank. I cannot have a different name with a slightly different spelling at another bank. So we have a single source of truth for all of these use cases, and that's where the digital economy truly benefits. There is trust in the ecosystem. Farmers can easily access finance. Microcredit becomes more common, and the roof for the amount of money you can get through microcredit also increases. So this is where the digital economy truly benefits, through the trust ecosystem. So these are some of the other use cases in addition to banks and telcos. We have civil registration that's linking. We have immigration that's linking. We have education, student information systems, document authentication, and land administration systems. MOSIP, which is a single window service for government, that's also linked. We have other interesting use cases. Startups are being connected to the Fayda system. Onboarding is very easy. We don't even meet them face to face. They self-onboard. They become a relying party online. So in Addis Ababa, the capital city where I'm from, now we have startup companies that are renting out e-bikes, for instance. They use Fayda eKYC because they need it to establish trust, because they are giving away their bicycles. They need the Fayda as a collateral. That's why we call digital ID is a new collateral. So we have so many new startups, these gig platforms that connect employers and employees. They're using this, they're finding many creative ways to use Fayda as a trust anchor. And we find that we're very proud to be a part of this story. And I'm sure the MOSIP family here is very proud as well. We have farmers that rely on, Naga mentioned it earlier, there is the Open G2P platform, we call it AgriNet in Ethiopia, that allows farmers' profile to be built and used for access to finance and access to credit. We have so many interesting archetypes and user stories, people whose lives are empirically improved because they have access to a foundational and trustworthy digital ID. We have refugees, it's also an interesting use case. In Ethiopia, whether you have proof of citizenship or not, or whether you're a citizen or not, digital ID is both beneficial for governance, for the administration, for good governance, for the government, but more importantly, or equally importantly, for the person receiving it. So refugees can benefit from digital ID because they have access to service. They can have access to services. They can enjoy some of the benefits that they are entitled to as a refugee, as a legal refugee. So that's been a very successful program. Refugee registers once at the UNHCR field office, automatically they get their digital IDs. So we have a couple of other social programs that are benefiting people, impacting people's lives. This is the wallet that I mentioned earlier. MOSIP has a resident portal, which we've been using very heavily. People, once they register, they change their mind, they change their addresses, maybe their birth date has some mistake, and they bring new documents. So we already have some kind of an existing app that connects to the MOSIP resident portal that allows people to update data, to change their address, to change their demographic data. But like I mentioned earlier, now we're planning to upgrade it to a verifiable credential or a credential wallet or a digital wallet. Thank you very much.